Welcome back to Arts Resuscitation. I'm here in Lexington, Kentucky at 6th and Limestone, and we're here visiting with the artist of this great mural, Mr. Michael Burrell. We'll be hearing more from Burrell and learning more about his work and how it's come about. Stay tuned, and you are in for a wonderful artistic treat from Mr. Michael Burrell here in Lexington, Kentucky. Sixth and Lime in Lexington, Kentucky has been a very popular corner for many years. It's presently the home of Owl's Bar. Owl's Bar, as you see, has the pleasure of being home to this wonderful mural done by Mike Burrell. Perpendicular to Owl's Bar, this little building was known as the Dunbar Inn. Jazz saxophonist George Gentry's mom made the best burgers you could buy outside of Mom's. As you can see, Mike's having a little bit of fun with his own artistry. Mike, thank you once again for taking the time to share your wonderful, wonderful work of art here. Where do you go when you're beginning this concept? What's the process? What's the beginning? Do you just wake up and say, I'm going to do a mural today? Or how does this start?
Well, this is an interesting process. This is very interesting. LexArt sponsored this community mural, and the community came together, and they told us sort of what they were looking for. They were looking for the houses, the actual venues that a lot of this happened. Well, they're gone. So I researched the people. I got names. I've read some books on jazz in Lexington, and I interviewed a lot of people that shared their photos. And some were, these were really long time. They were tattered, and they really trusted me to take them, make some copies, and bring them right back to them. It was wonderful. And basically, I took the material and I listened to a lot of music.
Which must have been a lot of fun,
yeah,
too.
It was. And I like that because that helps me energize the mural.
Hi, I'm Mike Burrell. This is featuring Charles Quillens, which was the music director for the county. And this is the Dunbar Band that he's leading in this version here. And many of the people in this mural were students of his. And I came across a research where they got together and they played on a float. I've made it basically a sidewalk. And he's playing in the lower part of this mural. He's playing with Duke Madison.
Duke Madison was one of the students of Charles Quillens, and he was a regional, pretty well-known sax player. He spent his life here as a postman, and met his wife, Anna, and she showed me this picture. And here he's playing sax here, and he played with Marin Romanowitz, who in the 50s came down and joined the black jazz groups. He was kind of a renegade, and they played a lot of the venues in this area, from the Drake Club to a lot of different places. He actually showed up when we unveiled this mural. He's still alive, and he played. This is Russell Hill, a bass player. He's passed away. I interviewed his son. We've got Norman Higgins here on the drums, right over here. Okay, in my original reference material, this was a guy from Georgetown, but Russell Hill was a local musician that played with these guys, so I got pictures from his son and I put him in this. And then another local was Norman Higgins. And these all have passed away, so I talked to their son or wives to get them in there. Now, here, this is Charles Quillen himself, and he actually played with his students years later. So this is a trumpet player, and one of his students was, of course, Les McCann on the piano. Les McCann, he was part of the Quilling's legacy. He is a very famous jazz pianist, still alive, still recording. Hopefully we'll catch him back here in Lexington, his hometown.
Who was that on the banjo?
J.D. Crowe.
J.D. Crowe.
Famous bluegrass musician. Which is really interesting because bluegrass music, they jam and feed off each other. Very similar to jazz. 7. Maybe just looks at you.
Then he's got white hair.
All right, there was sort of the logistics to doing this mural. I painted the top half of this first, and it has 8-foot panels and then 4-foot section. So I painted down into the 4-foot section, then I took the top half down, moved the 4-foot section up, added 8 feet on the bottom, and then tied that together. And honest to goodness, I didn't have any idea what this would look like together until we hung it on the wall. So it was, I was agonized about that, but it actually worked out pretty well. Okay, these children, they were from a resource from the early 50s. And what's really interesting, they're inviting you into this musical festival that this mural represents, this tradition. And when we unveiled this in 2008, these children would have been in their late 50s, early 60s. So it's kind of a neat kind of idea about these traditions. They're inviting you now, and they've all grown up. It's many years later, 50-some years later, and this is to help the community be invited into this tradition now. And so now it's in your hands where this tradition will continue or not.
Hi, I'm Brian Blankenship, principal of Southern Elementary, and we really truly enjoy our mural. Our theme was Children Around the World. We had done some things with some other countries, with student exchanges and teacher exchanges, and when we started talking about our mural, we wanted to kind of encapsulate that type of theme. And as you can see, or will see, Mr. Burrell did a wonderful job. And I do remember seeing the pieces of art go up. I was amazed at how they did that. Apparently, he tells me he did this artwork in his shop and in pieces, and then they kind of like wallpapered them up in different sections, and he was able to blend the seams in real nice. It's very difficult to see the seams from the different pieces, but I was real fascinated in watching them put up the pieces. But I can tell you, we've enjoyed the mural quite a bit, and it becomes certainly a topic of discussion for all of our guests when they come into their building, particularly our new parents. So we enjoy it.
We're here at the Southern Elementary School in Georgetown, Kentucky, and having the opportunity to look at another one of Mike Burrell's murals. As you will see, he has created some wonderful faces. Let's talk about some of the faces that you created and where those faces came from. Are they from someone in your past, or are these faces that you created in your mind? Where do they come from?
Well, a little bit of both. I was asked to do an international mural, and for the main part, they just wanted to circle the world with little kids coming around it, and I thought, no, we'll do something a little bit. I have a girl with a water jug on, and I used about 5 different resources and took a bit of the costume and the different thing, that little pose and the different face and the different, they all have different, some have bowls and some have pots and stuff. So I took that all together and did a sketch and basically made it up. And a lot of them are that way. I've got one in the Italian group where it's a boy that's got an ice cream and he's singing. Well, it was a girl in the original reference photo, and then I couldn't find anyone singing in that position, at 3/4 view. So I looked at probably 50, 60, 100 different images of children singing. And it's weird because when you look at that many images, after a while
it sticks in your head, and then I let it go, and then I draw it, and then it came together. I mean, the pose and everything came. I guess I looked at so many people singing that it just went inside of me. So then it poured out when I drew it. A lot of these faces are from the internet. You know, some things I would do is if I would use faces off one body and mix them so I wouldn't have any copyright infringements.
I was thinking about that when you said internet. Okay.
So I have Frankenstein a lot of the kids together, and I've changed it. The little boy that was on the llama was actually on a donkey, and when we got done, I realized that the light on the llama was different from the light on the boy, so I had to repaint him with the light coming the same, which means there's no reference, and it's like it's real tricky to do because you don't have a reference, you're just making it up. You've got the basic structure of the face, which was a challenge. Probably no one would have noticed if I left it the other way, but I'm kind of picky, so I did that. In this mural, I didn't have any kids in my. There's one of a little girl on a boat that's really modeled after my daughter. She's behind the cell. And the rest of the kids are just from different reference materials, old books, stuff like that. And I think the two kids on the banister, my wife was at the doctor's office, and I did a little thumbnail sketch of the kids.
Oh.
And so I kept it, and then I pulled it out. And so in terms of what they look, it was just the body position. So I made up the skin colors, the costuming, and everything. As we did the mural, I had a layout, and then the transitional things I did on the fly. I wanted to play with a lot with sky colors, so I did a lot of different skies.
Mm-hmm.
And if we got into an area we wanted to put some plant life, so we would go online and look at the plants that were indigenous,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd come up with a little garden or something, and we'd put those in there. So we had a lizard. There's a lizard there going up the steps into the outback scene, and the fellow that helped me with that, he did the whole thing. I did a little coaching verbally. He was an art student at UK, and he came on and worked with me 7 months. And we did sign work, and then in the evening we worked on this.
And
So-
UK is the University of Kentucky. For
That's right.
Some who are not familiar with it.
And he came a long way. He did a lot of the buildings. He was good at that, did the lettering, the mountains in China. He did most of the flowers at the end of the mural with the little bee in it. And,
Let's give him a shout out. Can you give us
his
his name?
name is Jimmy Cox.
Jimmy Cox. You did a
Jimbo
great
Cox.
job, Jimmy. Thank you.
He did a wonderful job. And he's on his own doing art now too.
Is he?
Yes.
And should be. You guys have done some beautiful, beautiful work, and I see the difference in the skies and how one scene transitions to another, to the cumulus clouds, to we've got a little fiery something going on in
Yeah.
So when people enter Southern Elementary School and see your mural, what is if you can surmise it in one line, what's the theme that you want them to walk away with? If it takes 2 lines, 3 lines, feel free.
Well, I named it as a small world, and it
Okay.
really is. And that's kind of a pun because the children are small. Although actually in the mural, a lot of them are 6 foot tall. But, you know, you look at this mural and the kids all feel like kids. But they're from all different parts of the world doing a lot of different things, but that kind of unity of them all being kids was really important to me. And this school has a international theme to it, and so they wanted to promote that, and they do emails and like Skyping with kids around the world to do things. So I wanted that kind of connection, and today especially, kids have the opportunity to travel, so they would go to a lot of these places. We're not as costume oriented as it used to be. It seems like people dress more and more alike around the world. But there are differences still.
So what parts of the world do you have represented in your mural?
Well, when you first come in on the right side of the mural, we start off with, I'm not quite sure what you would call it, but it's India-Pakistan region.
Okay.
And I've got some of the holy places on there. And I've taken and put a big figure of a child playing an instrument. In actuality, that was an old man playing, and I changed him. I've got kids jumping into the river. I've got a box full of women in saris and stuff, and so I enjoyed that. Then it moves on to Italy, and there's a little boy with the pigeons. There's an old gelati bus on there. Kids are the boys singing to the girl, and they're eating ice cream. It moves into South America, and we have a little boy that was on a donkey, now on the llama, and then two little kids, and I use different heads on the kids for their bodies, but I had fun with that. And then we moved on to goes, I believe, into France from there, and we has the Eiffel Tower. Well, we had the Leaning Tower of Pizza in the background that Jimbo worked on, and the Leaning Tower of Pizza he worked on. We've got the kids from France with the girl with the baguette of bread, and then we move into New Zealand and Australia. So we have the Aborigines from Australia and the kids from New Zealand getting off the bus. And then it moves into the main part that you walk into this. I didn't want to do the circle world with the kids sticking out. It took a long time, but I found the world laid out horizontally. And so we did that like from outer space look, except it's all laid out nice and flat, which is kind of interesting because the world turns like this, but the mural is concave. So we've got it's wrapping, kind of fun to think about. And we've got snow top and bottom, and the kids are standing on the Antarctic, and they're pretty big, and they welcome you, and they're from all over the world. We've got an Indian boy, there's an African girl, looks, I don't know, I think maybe somebody from maybe Paris, a little dancer, I can't. There's a boy from Israel, there's a Mongolian boy, there's a Japanese, there's a Peruvian, someone from the Scandinavian countries, and someone from the Vietnam area or Cambodia. And then we move on to the Middle East with people with birds and little girls sitting out front, sitting down talking to each other with the nice doorways that you have in that part of the area. Then we switched to Africa, and I used children from different parts of Africa, so they have got different costuming, but they're all together. Then we move on to, I lived in Canada for a while, so I was a little Inuit or Eskimo sensitive from living up there when I was a teenager. And so I've got nice representation of that culture with a dog, and two of them are carrying a fish that's almost as big as they are. Then we move to the Asian thing. We have a restaurant on wheels where the mother is, or maybe it's a teenager, bicycling with a little boy sitting on the cart. A little boy's flying a kite.
That's cute.
The girls are, I'm not sure exactly what this is. I think it's some kind of festival thing. They've got like a house made with flowers, and they're carrying it, and they're having a race.
I see, okay.
Then we moved into Spain. We've got 3 boys on horseback, barely fitting on there, and they've got a couple girls eating melons under a tree, and the light dapples on their skin. 2 boys are playing patty cake back near a gate to a garden. And then it transitions into the island peoples, and I had come into Hawaii and went to Hanauma Bay, so I used the photo for that backdrop. And then I used different kinds of island people. The one with the, we went to St. John's, and they have a festival, carnival thing, and they wear these crazy things with that are just fantastic. It's in the summertime. They're on stilts, and they make these crazy costumes. It's similar to what they do in Rio too. They take metal and they put fabric. It's quite interesting. So I included one with a fan,
and I've got some school kids from the island with their backpacks on coming
That's
in,
great.
chumming together with a little
That's great.
island house behind it. So a lot of the kids are facing us to kind of interact, and some are doing their things too, but a lot of them are I'm trying to get people to be invited into the mural to a certain degree and to think back to their own childhood.
Well, you've certainly done a great job in that, so you did accomplish that goal because it's very welcoming to everyone, and that's your whole purpose.
Yes, yes.
Well, I tell you what, thank you so much, and I understand there's something else you have to share with us. It's a stallion.
Yes, I can show you that too.
Okay.
Oh, what I might mention, which is kind of interesting, this mural is painted with acrylic house paints. There is no artist acrylic on it. There's no oils, and I kind of get a kick out of that because house paints. I have a sign company. I found that they hold up extremely well, and nowadays you can get them in pretty vibrant colors. And we're not getting a lot of sunlight on this, so the chances of them fading are low.
And I hate to interrupt you, but that's so important that you say that because the one on 6th and Limestone, which is exposed to different types of climate, well not climate, but weather,
Oh, yeah.
you know, all of the elements, and the paint is in immaculate condition. You know, I'm sure you might have a couple of stuff that maybe you noticed, but in general, the paint looks like you just did it.
Right, and I'm real happy with that. Now that was mostly house paint. I used a few mural paints for the fugitive colors like red, but I did something kind of weird with that one. I took a clear, automotive clear was an elastometric clear that flattened it, made it like a satin finish so it'd be a little flexible, and put that on top to fight any graffiti that, because I can come back there with lacquer thinner and wipe it off. And
Oh, really?
But that is a south-facing wall, and I warned them. I said, I don't know how long this will stay because that gets incredible sunlight on that, and that's the worst place to put a mural. And it was done in '08. That's 5 years. It's going to be
It looks awesome.
It's holding up very well.
Even one of the gentlemen that passed by said, did you touch that up?
Yeah,
You were
I know.
like, no, I haven't done a thing
I haven't
to it. It's
done a
like,
thing to it.
you haven't touched it up? He was
Yeah.
quite surprised.
So that worked out really well. The other thing with this mural was it was done in sections in my shop, and so it's on 100% polyester canvas. Most canvases have cotton duck in it, and if they get moisture, they stretch and they go weird. But 100% polyester, it seems to be a really nice surface. It's primed on both sides. It was 8.5 feet in height, and so we put this up. We used articulating lifts. I pulled my daughter into this, and we had to do about a day's worth of testing because we put wallpaper paste on. We had to figure out how long it would take before it dried, so we would know how much we could do, so we could get that down and then do the next section. So we were standing in these little lifts, and guys would butter the wall, and then we would hand them the roll, and they'd roll it out. And we had big rolls of paper towels because they were soft, and we were using that to squeegee the canvas down to the wall, and we do 4 feet or so. And it took us 2 days to paper this up on there, and it was interesting. It took us a full day to make a design for this because the brick comes away from the wall, and inside that brick they have glass that comes up at an angle. So we measured down from the lights, we put a level line and ran a piece of paper, and we scored the paper that make a perfect fit. And then when we did the murals, we'd lay the paper down and diagram that on there, and we would cut it with about 2 inches extra, so when we put this up there, we'd take a knife and cut it so it fits really good. So a lot of engineering stuff.
I was about to say.
It took me days to find someone. Finally found a guy in Florida to get the information on what kind of wallpaper paste to use for canvas. And so the project ran 7 months. A lot of that was design and research. And I ran my business at the same time, so this was a lot of late nights.
Wow,
working.
sure.
So
It's certainly well worth it.
yes, it was.
Turned out beautifully. You have to be quite proud. I noticed when we came in, you're like, wow, I did this, didn't I?
Yeah, I hardly get here. I see it maybe once a year. I like to come out and see how it's doing. I did this in 2006, so it's been up quite a while now. And I'm always amazed because I've got photos of it. But till you stand here, you really, when you're next,
Right.
just looking, you're going, whoa.
And the rotunda is a more personal mural of Burrell's.
This is Ben Webb, one of the Lamaze kids. He was born 2 weeks before Lauren. Lauren was born on the 31st as my daughter. And then Patrick Ryan was 2 weeks later. And we've remained friends with the families and the boys, and the kids are now 23 years old. So that's worked out really well. The principal over here, and she raised Morgan horses and was the first principal of the school. So the mascot here are the Morgans.
Burrell was also commissioned to paint the mascot for Southern Elementary.
Okay, this is a town park, Town and Country. And here I introduced my dog Max. He was here the whole time we did this mural. We did this later in the day, and a lot of after-school kids came to know him very well. He had email set up with him. We had lunch with the kids on one occasion. And to this day, the little ones come over here and pet him. Sometimes they wouldn't pet Max the dog. They would come over here and pet Max the pitcher. So we had a good time with that.
So hopefully Mike Burrell's murals will remind us we're all the same. Sometimes we come together because of music. But at the end of the day, we all want our children happy, safe, and compassionate, regardless of what part of the world we come from.